Welcome to our channel. Aibovan, Vanakkam, Assalamu alaikum. I am your Kader master and this is The Wall. First of all, apologize me for wearing these glasses in order to protect my eyes from the powerful lights focusing at me. Today, we are going to discuss about a topic that often goes overlooked and has received little attention, but should have been discussed by every Sri Lankan who loves his motherland and values self respect. The topic is diplomacy or treason. In other words, it is about the Ehalapolas in our time. One of the cornerstones of diplomatic relations is the principles of interference in domestic affairs. Sri Lanka had a proud history of protecting its sovereignty from external interferences. Look at this clip. At the left, the figure is well known to all Sri Lankans. It is President Premadasa, who also the father of Sajid Premadasa. On the left, there is a photo that may not be familiar to many Sri Lankans, especially to the younger generation. He served as the British High Commissioner to Sri Lanka during that period. His name is Mr. David Gladstone. You might be wondering how this clip relates to the subject at hand. This clip tells you the story of a specific occurrence, perhaps the sole instance in which a Western diplomat, a British High Commissioner, was expelled from Sri Lanka on the grounds of allegedly interfering in country's internal affairs. In this video, we shall discuss that story and discuss how the opening market policy has gradually eroded this determination and transformed it into foreign interference in the country's internal affairs. Now, let us move to the second clip. This one involves around highly sensitive and confidential evidence that has been kept hidden in a cupboard for over 30 years about British mercenaries operating at Sri Lanka's military headquarters. Is it not surprising? It is only one of the three revelations we are going to unveil in this video news segment. Our spy eagle will uncover more surprising revelations like this soon. Creating these type of videos involve extensive research and dedication. As you know, we strive to deliver exceptional and credible information, untold stories, and the hidden side of the other side of the wall. We hope you will express your appreciation by subscribing to the channel and sharing our videos. You can watch our past videos by visiting to Real Other channel. Let us begin with the first clip again. In this picture, the person on the left is Mr. David Gladstone, a senior British diplomat. He was declared a persona non grata, meaning unacceptable person and ordered to leave the country by Premadasa's government on August 27, 1991. The jurisdiction for his expulsion was his breach of diplomatic norms and interference in Sri Lanka's internal affairs. What prompted the government to make that decision? The envoy had walked into a polling station in Dickwella and talked to staff there during the local council elections held in May 17, 1991, and then he reported voting irregularities to the police. The Sri Lankan Foreign Ministry said the ambassador's action were an unwarranted interference in the internal affairs of Sri Lanka. You know what? The true motivation was somewhat different. The Premadasa government had been eagerly waiting for such an opportunity, particularly because Gladstone had been vocally criticizing the high-handed actions of the government during the crackdown on the second uprising of the JVP in 1989 and 90. Often he faced accusation of being a JVP supporter, which he denied. The key point here is that, irrespective of the motivation, the principle of protection against external interference must be emphasized. It is not uncommon for governments to expel diplomats in accordance with this policy. To provide a few examples, a few months ago, in September 2024, Russia expelled 6 British diplomats allegedly for spying. In March 2024, Estonia expelled Russian diplomat over interference charge. In September 2023, India expelled a senior Canadian diplomat over interference claims. In May 2023, China expelled Canadian diplomat as tit-for-tat response for expelling its diplomats in Canada. In March 2019, even Venezuela government gave a government ambassador 48 hours to leave the country for interfering in domestic affairs. Between 1946 and 1991, over 1,500 Soviet Union diplomats were expelled from various countries. This is how governments defend their sovereignty against outside intervention. Sri Lanka too followed this course for a long period until 1977, when the free market economy was introduced. Even after that, until 2015, intervention in internal affairs to change governments in election was virtually non-existent in Sri Lanka. Now let us trace the sequence of events since 2015 and examine how the country has turned into a battleground of the superpowers. An unexpected defeat of the then strongman Mahinda Rajapaksa in 2015 presidential election was a blessing in disguise and a historic moment worthy celebration by all who value justice and democracy. However, it is important to note that Mahinda Rajapaksa was not removed through the will of the people. Rather, it was an external coup orchestrated by one of the country's prominent new Ehalapolas, that is Ranil Wickremesinghe. The pro-China Mahinda Rajapaksa was ousted by two superpowers as a result of their rivalry with China. Why do I refer to Ranil Wickremesinghe as new Ehalapolas? There is reason. It is because after assuming the role of Prime Minister in 2015, he went out of the way to appease his American masters while acting as if he were the executive president and attempting to use then President Maitripala Sirisena as a mere rubber stamp. See the catastrophic harm Ranil attempted to inflict on our country. He made every effort to secure the Millennium Challenge Corporation or the MCC agreement with the US behind the back of the people of the country. In fairness, a number of MCC projects have been successfully implemented in other countries where the MCC was not linked with other agreements. But in Sri Lanka's case, the MCC was linked to two other agreements: Acquisition and Cross Service Agreement (AXA) and States of Forces Agreement. So far, of these, AXA has already been signed. These three agreements could have given US certain degree of control, which can have serious impact on Sri Lanka's sovereignty. The first AXA agreement was introduced to Sri Lanka in 2007 for a 7-year period. It allowed the US military to use our air and seaports. In 2017, another agreement was signed, which was much more comprehensive and dangerous than the one signed before. Compared with the 2007 agreement, which consisted of only 6 pages, the 2017 agreement has 50 annexes covering 80 pages. It allows the US military agencies to use our air and seaports without the supervision of the government authorities. This agreement has not been given any publicity and not even discussed in Parliament. It was hurriedly signed by the then US ambassador to Sri Lanka, Abdul Keshab, in 2017. As the head of the state, President Sirisena, who command, whose command of English is limited, signed the agreement on behalf of Sri Lanka on August 4, 2017. He, however, later claimed that he did not read the agreement and did not know what was in the agreement, what kind of state head he was, and who took him for the ride. No one else but Ranil Wickremesinghe. They are the other one, the State Forces Agreement, so far also known as Visiting Force Agreement (VFA), is the most detrimental agreement to the country. It simply would have turned Sri Lanka under the authority of the US. Furthermore, it expects Sri Lanka government to facilitate the handover of our sovereignty to operate according to their wishes without any interference with the Sri Lanka government. The US officials involved in the project, as well as the contractors and the other personnel working with the US government, are free to enter or leave the country without checks by the Sri Lanka border controlling agencies. While on duty, all foreign personnel could wear their official uniform. They do not have to pay taxes and are exempted from custom inspection. The most dangerous aspect of the SOFA agreement was that Sri Lanka becomes a logistic hub which comes to operation in the event a war where the US involved. As a logistic hub, it allows the US to use Sri Lanka without any constraint or objection of Sri Lanka government and its people. The SOFA will allow the US government to turn Sri Lanka into its base. The Ranil's government would have signed the MC agreement if not for the intervention of Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who was waiting in the wings to become the president of the country at the time, who promised to throw away the MCC agreement due to people's protest and to satisfy his new master, India. It is vital to remember that the United States is still determined to get the MCC signed. It is interesting to know that the MCC agreement was significant in both Gotabaya Rajapaksa's rise and fall. A regional superpower that collaborated with the US to depose the pro-China Mahinda Rajapaksa regime in 2015 was disappointed with the haste with which the MCC was pushed through with Ranil's support, mended fence with Mahinda Rajapaksa's family, and helped them to return to power in 2019 through a highly communalized electoral campaign that took advantage of the orchestrated Easter bomb attack. It is now becoming clear that the superpower had a hand in the Easter bomb attack. Although the country benefited this time too by frustrating the US that withdrew in December 2020, together its offer of a rupees 89 billion MCC grant to Sri Lanka. One possible reason Gotabaya, a former US citizen, hesitates to visit the US is his refusal to cooperate with the signing of the MCC, owing to widespread outcry and the allegiance to his new master. This could be one of the reasons why the US supported a section promoted by Ranil at Aragalaya to oust Gotabaya. Now, new first-hand details regarding the mystery surrounding the tragic Easter bomb attack are emerging and being shared on social media. Recently, a respected Muslim journalist revealed in an interview with the foreign media that the Easter Sunday bombing was not a suicide attack as previously thought. Instead, the terrorists were directed to carry pack, backpacks filled with explosive to targeted luxury hotels and churches as they were less likely to be suspected or searched due to their affluent backgrounds. They were told to leave the explosive laden bags behind and exit the scene. Unwittingly, these cowards complied with the orders and carried the explosive packages as directed and could blown off by the state agent truly in control of the operation. Right now, there are a lot of unanswered questions that are clamoring for answers. One, who were the other Ehalapolas involved in the covert effort to bring down Mahinda Rajapaksa's government in 2015. Though the country gained from the change for a brief period, the real benefit went to the superpower US that sought to impose its agenda on the country behind the back of the people. Question number two: who are the other Ehalapolas participating in the hidden coup? Number three: who are the real Ehalapola and the external force behind the orchestrated Easter Sunday tragedy? Who are the other Ehalapolas embedded within the government, institutions, and society to fulfill the interest of the external forces? Lastly, I want to highlight a concerning trend regarding the interference of external forces, which has reached alarming heights during the 2024 presidential election. Previously, these external forces operated behind the scenes, utilizing intermediaries or helopers. But this time around, the head of a superpower's intelligence agency, came to Sri Lanka during the election, engaged with the multiple political leaders, and either persuaded or pressurized them to back a specific candidate. I must ask, is there a functioning government in Sri Lanka? Is Sri Lanka truly a sovereign country? Or has it become a colony of a superpower? If this trend continues to continues unchecked, our country risks devolving into a pawn of one or the other superpower. Given Sri Lanka's strategic location, balancing diplomatic relations with superpowers is a tightrope walk today's geopolitical landscape. When rivalry between them has reached a boiling point, one of the biggest challenges the fledgling government would confront today is maintaining diplomatic relations, a delicate balancing act between competing interests while discovering and controlling the hidden halopolis of our time. As there is a fine line between diplomatic ties and treason in this scenario. 1965 UN Resolution 2131, paragraph 1 states, no state has the right to intervene directly or indirectly for any reason whatsoever in the internal or external affairs of any other state. Superpowers apply this principle selectively. It is possible mainly because Ehalapolas within. With the final note, let us wrap up the first segment of the of this video and move on to our second segment. Welcome back. This is our new segment. What has caught our eyes is for your attention. Our spy ear. Let us begin by examining the findings of the declassified UK document regarding British mercenaries operating at Sri Lanka military headquarters in the late 1980s. This occurred during the brutal crackdown, primarily targeting JP activists and the opponents of UNP as well. This evidence was kept in a cupboard at British High Commission in Sri Lanka for over 3 decades and not given to National Archives. The company for which they worked is Kini Mini Services, that is KMS. It kept an intelligence officer stationed at Sri Lankan military operations headquarters during the brutal suppression. Now, the following questions arises. Who funded the private firm in the UK to slaughter our youths? Who authorized the hiring of the foreign companies killing Scott to operate in our country? What role did the mercenaries of KMS, the UK mercenary company, perform in Sri Lanka's military headquarters? How many and how long did they stay in Sri Lanka? Is it not the time for our countrymen to shake off their illusions about our past political leaders who dress in white and walk about all of the Buddhist viharas with platter of flowers on their heads? Above all, is it not this the right time to conduct an investigation into the crime against the humanity? Now, let us go to the second clip. This is a clip about a revelation made by Lanka E. It is about the largest VIT scam in South Asia. It took place between 2002 and 2004 and cost Sri Lankan taxpayers nearly 40 billion rupees, not million, 40 billion rupees. Fraudulent documents were used to claim money from the Inland Revenue Department, implicating several individuals, including relatives of politician. The politician is none other than the current SJB chairman, Imtiaz Bakir Makar. The financial corruption prompted him to engage in political corruption too and betray his trusted political friends. Ranil first and then Sajid now. In 2005 presidential election, just a few months after the scam, in that election, Ranil Wickremesinghe, the leader of the UNP and a close friend of Mr. Imtiaz, was competing for the first time against Mahinda Rajapaksa, who was also a newcomer to the race. At the outset, Ranil had an edge over Mahinda Rajapaksa, who was battling on a sticky wicket as he was not favored by the Tamil voters, and his party leader, then President Chandrika Kumaratunga, was not throwing her full weight behind him. But cunning Mahinda turned the table on his favor by negotiating a deal with the LTTE that subsequently announced that they would boycott the election. On the other hand, he made a secret deal with Imtiaz Bakir Makar, who worked clandestinely for Mahinda Rajapaksa, who compensated Imtiaz by shielding him from the VIT investigation. At the end, of, at the end, Ranil lost by just 1,80,786 votes. thanks to the LTTE and Imtiaz Bakar marker. The buck did not stop there. The Lanka-E revealed further that Bakir was also forced to reveal details of opposition leader Sajid Premadas's campaign during the 2019 presidential election. This demonstrates that corruption is not a monopoly of the corrupt singular politicians. It spans all ethnicity, religions, and caste. Before we conclude, let us go to the final revelation. This is about the biggest gold robbery of the country. After defeating the LTT in 2009, the Sri Lankan army seized a large collection of gold jewelry from the Tamil Elam banks and Elam pawning centers that were operating in the LTTE controlled area. A significant number of the original owners were either killed, went missing, or relocated. Many of them were unable to produce receipts as proof of ownership of their gold jewelry were lost. There had been inquiries for a long time from different sources regarding the whereabouts of the gold. Consequently, after more than 5 years, Mahinda government declared that 2,377 rightful owners had been identified. Not this figure, 2,377 owners. Are you going to believe that? That's all the persons who mortgaged their jewelry in those two LTT banks. On October 12, 2014, then President Rajapaksa symbolically returned a fraction of the jewelry to the a group of 25 owners in Kilnochi. A few months later, two special trains transported recipients from Kilnochi to Colombo for a widely publicized ceremony at Temple Trees, where a total of 1,960, only 1,960 identified owners received their jewelry. It was announced that an additional stock of jewelry owned by 419, just 419 individuals and still unclaimed was set to return to the central bank. However, according to reliable source, the actual quantity of gold recovered from LTT was manifold than publicly disclosed, and major part of it was allegedly smuggled to a Middle Eastern country by influential politicians of that time. That raises several questions. What is the actual quantity of the gold retrieved from the LTT area? What happened to the remaining unaccounted for gold stock? 3. In whose pocket did it fall into? That is the wrap of today's video. Let us meet every Thursday hereafter. Our topic for next Friday would be the expected qualitative changes stemming from this parliamentary election. If you enjoy this video, please subscribe and share. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you very much.